Hey guys, MCU Collector here with another figure review, and next up is the Hasbro Marvel Legends series Disney Plus Wave 2 What If T'Challa Star-Lord. So looking at the package, we got the What If logo there, Build-A-Figure Watcher there in the corner, and we get this cool Watcher logo there. This was an interesting one. The episode was really good, completely caught me off guard with some of the things that happened, and I won't really get into spoilers, but a very good episode. When I first heard about it, I'm like, why would you even do a T'Challa Star-Lord? I get it. Like, what if T'Challa was picked up instead of Peter Quill? It just seemed really odd, right? But the episode was really enjoyable, and it was nice hearing Chadwick Boseman's voice again. And I'm glad that he was able to do the voice work before his passing, because I think it made it a little bit more special. So we'll just get into the figure, everything. So he comes with the Build-A-Figure piece for the Watcher, which is the head, which actually looks really cool. We got the alternate mast head, and then we have some of those blasters. I'm not sure if those are the same as the ones that we've gotten before with Star-Lord and then just repainted. I will take a look at that. Side artwork of T'Challa as Star-Lord, looking very cool. He's got the helmet mask on, which looks good. Here at the back of the package, we actually get a different promo image of Star-Lord, which is really cool. It would have been nice if like one on the side or the one in the front actually had the unmasked. That would have been really cool. But the bio for T'Challa Star-Lord reads, T'Challa grew up in space and became Star-Lord, now leading adventures throughout the galaxy. So here's the entire wave. We have the Watcher Build-A-Figure on the entire wave. To build him, we've already looked at Zombie Captain America. We're on Star-Lord. Next will be Captain Carter and so on. So let's get right to it, and let's get T'Challa out of the package. Okay, and here is the T'Challa Star-Lord figure out of the package, and he is pretty good, but I will admit that he is probably my least favorite of the wave. I really enjoyed the character, really loved the episode, but the figure execution for me is where it's kind of lacking. Just because there's just, I don't know what it is. With all the other figures, you know, it's all based on, you know, an animated show. They all have an animated look to the figures. I get it. This one, even more so, really gets that animated treatment, if that makes sense. Like the head sculpts and everything for each of the figures, they all look like the animated version, whereas the rest of the figure, the suit, the body, the whatever, can also come off as live action, whereas I think this figure really doesn't lend itself to do that and strictly sticks to an animated style figure overall in its entirety. So it's not my favorite. It's not a bad figure, but it's not my favorite. But there is something that's going to bother me, and I'm going to have to kind of figure this out, and we'll get to it. But first, I do want to talk about the two weapons, the two blasters. Those are the same that came with Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. They are just painted differently. I just kept up looking up images instead of trying to find wherever I have those. But they are the same, and they do have some pretty awesome paint apps. So I'll get in close to look at those blasters because they look really, really good. And then we'll get a closer look at T'Challa Star-Lord. Take a look at both heads somehow. So the thing that is going to bother me, though, is when I tried swapping the heads just to start off the video, the ball peg, the dumbbell joint, comes off and then stays inside the head, which isn't that big of a deal, except to peg this head on, I need that ball peg to stay in the neck. So I have to figure out how to safely remove this guy, so whether I have to heat it up or whatever the case may be. But I got to get this out, place it back on the neck so then I can get this head. So it kind of sucks that we have to do that, but we'll get into it here pretty soon. And then we have the head for the Watcher Build-A-Figure, and that looks pretty good there. I think it's hollow, and then they just added in a little plastic piece to help fill it out there. It's not very heavy, but let's get to it. Okay, so first we'll take a look at these blasters, and they look pretty good. You can see there's a one right there because this is one that will go like on his right hand, or I guess it doesn't matter, whichever way you want to put it, but some nice gold paint, some nice metallic purple in there. That looks pretty good. Again, all the details are the same from the Star-Lord release, but the paint apps are different, the colors are different, and they are the same. But I really like the way the purple looks, really like the way the gold looks, and then just that gray plastic's just okay, but they look pretty good. And I don't know how I'm going to be able to show you the close-up of this head sculpt once I try and figure out how to get on the head, but there that is now. Here is this one. So now I'm going to work Okay, so here is an up-close look at the Star-Lord head sculpt, you know, with the helmet mask on. So basically what I use tweezers to pop out that dumbbell joint from inside the head sculpt. You really, really want to be careful with it because you're going to start scraping that ball peg. You might mess up like the bottom portion of the head. So be very careful if you have that same problem. Hopefully you don't, and you don't have to worry about it. So be very careful. But looking at the helmet, it does look really good. You can see it's very similar to like the Peter Quill Star-Lord helmet, but it is not the same. There are some kind of major differences. It's much more slanted looking, and it doesn't look so what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't look as big, I would say, because if you look like at the Star-Lord one, you can see a lot of the same type of details and stuff in there, but again, not the same. We basically get the same amount of color. If anything, the Peter Quill, you get the helmet itself is like a gray color, then you get some silver and gold, and then red for the lenses. But for T'Challa, we just get the base gray color of the helmet with some gold in there, and then purple for the eye lenses. But looks pretty good. But again, it's a much smaller looking head sculpt, but it does look pretty good. This isn't the way I'm going to have him in my collection anyway. I'm going to have him with the T'Challa unhelmeted head. Ooh, nice. The ball peg stayed. So that's good. So we'll pop that head on. I'm definitely going to have him displayed with this head sculpt. It looks pretty good. It's not the best, but again, it's that very animated style. I will see if one of the Black Panther T'Challa Chadwick Boseman head sculpts will fit on this. I don't know, but I will check it out. But looking at the rest of the figure, we kind of have that same Star-Lord look, right? You got a jacket. Very different because we get a nice purple and gold, which is very regal color for a prince. Looking at the sculpt of it, looks pretty good. And then going down into the pants. Again, it's just the extremely animated style, so the legs are very, very thin. Like this, he's got like no weight to this figure whatsoever. But it just all looks okay. But again, extremely thin on the legs, which is kind of crazy. But really nothing special. We get the brown and the gray coming together for the boots, which then makes it so the hinge is gray. Unfortunately, at least half the kneecap there is painted. So that kind of sucks. We get trigger fingers for the hands. It is pinless, so no pins on the elbows, no pins on the knees. But really not a whole lot going for it, to be honest with you. But let's zoom out for the articulation. Okay, so T'Challa Star-Lord. It is a dumbbell joint, so you're not going to get the craziest range of motion looking down or up. But that much down, that much up. Actually not too bad going up. You get full rotation, of course, and some crazy pivot any way you want it, because it is that dumbbell joint. You can get the arms to go out that much. You get a full rotation, of course. You have an upper bicep swivel in there. You get a double jointed elbow, and that top bend is a little stiff. You get that much bend on the elbow, which is really good. As I fix the shoulder to get it to come back around. Wrist swivel, and we have the standard horizontal hinge. You should have had a vertical hinge with those blasters, but he does not. Unfortunately, he has an ab crunch, so he can crunch forward that much. He can go back a little bit. The jacket does hinder a little bit as it just hits below the waist. Unfortunately, you have a waist swivel in there. Legs go out that far apart. He can't kick forward that high. You have an upper thigh cut in there. Double jointed knee like so. But again, the hinge, you could see the gray of the hinge in the knee. Unfortunately, there's no calf swivel or boot swivel. Foot hinges all the way down. A little bit of hinge on up, ankle pivot, peg holes at the bottom of the feet. And again, these legs are very thin. The feet are very thin. So it's a little disappointing from that aspect. It's cool that we got the character, and I think he might play a semi-important role throughout the series as it gets into the Guardians of the Multiverse or whatever that's going to be. You know, we see clips where there's a few of the different characters like all kind of going around in a circle, almost like the Avengers type thing. But there he is. So, yeah, just okay. Okay, and for some size comparisons, we have Peter Quill Star-Lord, T'Challa Star-Lord, and Black Panther T'Challa. So they're all about the same. They're all about the same height, as you can see. I think the head swap between the two T'Challas is going to look a little funky. I know I'm just not the biggest fan. Oh, see, it's just this damn head that pulls off that dumbbell joint. So I will not be doing the proper head swap, but if you want to kind of get an idea how that might look, it could actually work out. I don't know if that ball peg's going to work. I can't. Hate that it's doing that. So before I use the tweezers to get that ball peg out, I mean, this helmet, so if we're talking this ball peg size, this head fitting on this ball peg, this isn't going to work. This ball peg is much bigger, so this Chadwick Boseman head sculpt would just be too large and would just have to kind of rest on it as well. But I mean, you can fake it, and that could actually work out decently. The skin tones don't quite match, but it's kind of hidden, like you can't really see his neck too much, and then the hands are far away. So I mean, you can kind of fudge it and make it work if you wanted to. Okay, and so far the two What If figures that I have open and reviewed, the Zombie Captain America and now the T'Challa Star-Lord. And they could see that T'Challa stands a little bit taller than the Zombie Captain America figure. But What If figures, again, this wave is looking really good. But I will tell you that this is probably going to be my least favorite of the wave. Actually, the Heist Nebula is probably going to be my least favorite, to be honest. And it sucks that the two figures that I don't like as much are going to be from the same episode. But I just think that some of these other figures are just so much better than this one. And then the fully animated style of the figure is really kind of throwing me off a bit. Not that it's bad, not that it's terrible, not that it doesn't function. It's just different from the other MCU figures, different from what I'm used to in terms of live action. There's more sculpted detail on live action figures. There's textures of suits and things like that. On an animated version, we don't get that. So that's kind of what's throwing me off a little bit. Not that it's a bad figure in any way, but I just do think that the other figures are going to be a little bit better than this T'Challa Star-Lord. I actually did go back and pop off that dumbbell joint. And the Chadwick Boseman head does actually pop on there and actually sits at a nice height. Skin tone doesn't match though, but you can make that work. Okay, and here is the final look at the Star-Lord figure. Again, good figure, just not my favorite in the wave. The episode is one of my favorites of the season. The Doctor Strange just blew me away. It's definitely my favorite. The T'Challa Star-Lord is going to be either number 2 or 3. The Captain Carter one was really good, but felt very rushed, whereas the T'Challa Star-Lord, there was a lot they packed in, and it didn't feel rushed at all. But with Captain Carter, I felt that it was very, very rushed. So, it's kind of a toss-up between those two. The Avengers one was really good, but wasn't as good in my opinion. That one went like, things were very different. They hit a lot of the same beats from the previous movies and things like that. But it still felt very different, whereas the other ones kind of a lot of the same similar things. I don't know. It's just kind of different in how I felt on those particular episodes. Not that any of them were really bad or anything like that. But this is the figure. A decent figure. He functions. Just for me, he's a little bit not even disappointing. Just not as detailed, not as good as I've come to expect with MCU figures. And that's because of the animated style. That's not like anybody's fault or Hasbro being cheap and lazy or anything like that. It's animated style, so it's going to be smooth textures and all of that going on with it. But you guys let me know down in the comments below what you think of this figure. What did you think of that episode? Are you excited for what's to come? Let me know in the comments below. If you guys like this video, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as always, thank you for watching.